What's up, Authentic fam? This is a very unpleasant topic. So let's just get into it. By now, anybody that's passing through the mail space on YouTube or I guess any other forum where guys conjugate has already heard the unfortunate news about the Godfather, Kevin Samuels. So I'm going to go ahead and just give my um, just basically going to address it or what's going on in my head. I didn't want to do this video today. I didn't want to do this video tomorrow or yesterday or ever. But, you know, it's on people's minds. It's what we're talking about and what we're thinking about. So I'm entitled to an opinion as well, I guess, and some of you might be interested to hear it. So I'll share it. I'd like to start with my interpretation of Uncle Kev's overall message. Some of us look at him as the Godfather. I just like to call him Uncle Kev. You know, I looked at him like that uncle, from that part of the country. Country brother, but very sophisticated. Would have never thought that he was from, you know, any part of the South. But he had a message to women that basically was, I think, very simple. He's not criticizing or passing judgment on what they want in a man, what they feel entitled to, or they feel they deserve, or they should have. It was more of a question, and that question was, do you know what that man wants in a woman? And do you possess that? That was my estimation of it. I thought it was very simple. And I think the reason why it triggered a lot of women was simply because it forced them to look in the mirror. And let's face it, guys, a majority of those women didn't measure up to that bar, whatever that would be. Of course, he was known for coining the phrase high valued man in our space. I'm sure he's not the first person to refer to a man as high value, but he's the one that popularized it and made it basically a household terminology that we all kind of, somewhat identify this ideal man with and what the women are quote unquote looking for. And I think he had a lot of male detractors, as he would call them. And I think they were maybe irritated or, didn't like Kevin Samuels, when I think there's no reason for anyone not to like Kevin Samuels as an individual. So I would look at it as they didn't like his message. And I think why some guys might not have liked his message, I'm guessing, because I'm not a guy that didn't like his message. I was thrilled by his message, and it touched me and did a lot for me. But for the guys who didn't, I also had the suspicion that it was another look in the mirror, because he was basically saying, if you are a high-valued man, then and only then are you really in a position to dictate and demand what it is that you want from a woman, meaning you're in a position to fully provide for a woman, you're in a position to provide the home, provide the money, the finances, the resources while she is pregnant, while she's doing the labor, while she's doing the child rearing, and then able to run this functional household from a provider position. And I think that was a message that the black community forgot a long time ago. I think that I've always had a very strong connection with my grandfather and his generation by way of that, because I was around him and he was always around his friends. So it wasn't just that old man, it was those old men. And in their day, when they were younger men, you couldn't even look a beautiful woman's way. And mind you, back then, black women weren't quote unquote angry black women. They were beautiful black women. They were slim, they were petite, they had small waists. And I'm saying this because I saw the pictures, bro. What do you think I used to do when I was a little kid? I used to go through all my grandfather's stuff. I used to go through all his photo albums, go through his coin collection, look at suits he couldn't even fit anymore, look at his old ass colognes and his little pocket watches and all the type of, heirlooms they would have. And I remember looking at all these black and white photos, and the women were beautiful. I could see even in those older photos that black women back then were like the norm was slim, petite, uh, beautiful women, smooth faces, not frowned up eyebrows or anything like that, smiles on their faces. And I saw a type of relationship that you don't see in the modern time. You just don't really see it. But the understanding was you had to be a provider, you had to be a go-getter, you had to be hardworking, you had to be up every morning, out the door working, and not back until you put in a full day's work. And then you had your woman's support. You had her respect and her admiration because you were a hardworking black man. All right. So for me, I think his message wasn't something that was unheard of to me. It was something that I felt guys my generation and younger just hadn't heard, and he was kind of resurrecting it, and I liked that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how Kevin Samuels inspired me. So, starting to listen to this guy like late 2017, 2018, he inspired me to have this goal and this expectation of myself that I was going to become a high value man on my terms, but of course, largely influenced by his definition. And obviously, for me, it wasn't just about making a lot of money. It wasn't just about making six figures. It was about being not only valuable, but essential to the success and the performance of other men. It was about bringing value to anybody that I interacted with, whether it be family, friends, or someone that I'm in a relationship with. And I took that aspect of it very seriously. And also, it was about your morals, your integrity, your character. So for me, it was that three-part combination: the income, the being essential to other people, and also being a man of strong moral character. And it's almost like he encouraged me to like maximize on like my potential in those areas. You know what I mean? Like I'm already predisposed to wanting to be a hustler, wanting to grind, wanting to make money, wanting to be hardworking, and just be good at anything that I set out to do at any given time. Also, being someone that doesn't lie, doesn't cheat, manipulate. So, okay, that's already there. And then always giving the best advice that I can, and trying to continue that legacy that my grandfather had of always giving sound advice to people that was extremely helpful. And of course, it being just like compounded with honesty, whether they wanted it or not. So Kevin Samuels is the one that kind of made me see, you know what, you need to ramp that up. You need to ramp that up to the extreme. You need to make helping other people be successful a priority. You need to ramp up making a certain amount of money per month, per year, a necessity, a priority. And you need to make your moral character a priority, no matter how much it's going to cost you. In the short term, you know that you always had the best character looking back. So it was because of him I actually said, you know what? I'm not going to take any clients that don't make over 150K, 200K a year. And no sooner than I said that, I kid you not, like four or 5 months later, I was already clearing over 9 grand a month, right? Eight grand a month on the low end, 10 and a half grand on the higher end. And I was just like, wow, I was blown away by how much of a difference financially just a mindset shift could make for me. And it was Kevin Samuels that made me really zero in on that number and say, you know what? What's 100K divided by 12? And that's how much I need to make a month minimum. um, did that. There were guys coming to me all through the quarantine and before the quarantine, wanting to figure out what they were going to do to make more money. A lot of guys were like, I want to start a business, but I don't know what. And I buckled down and really got in the head of a lot of guys and was on them every day about it. And now I'm happy to say that there's several guys that it's not that they couldn't have done it without me, it's that they wouldn't have done it when and how they did it if it wasn't for me. But they're running their own businesses and it's successful. Because I looked at them and saw what's the value that they have to offer and how can they monetize that? Is there a market for that? And there is. You're ex-military, you have all of this fucking training, all this special ops shit. There's plenty of guys out there that want to defend themselves, bro. Fuck that. Start your own business. Start being an instructor. Start teaching guys how to handle firearms, so on and so forth. Dude is not only gainfully employed with his own business, he's hired all his fucking ex-military buddies. My other boy, landscaping business, doing great. He's got to hire new hands now, other people to take care of other properties. He's getting contracts with properties now instead of just, commercial properties instead of just people's homes, residential. You know what I'm saying? So just things like that, bro. Another buddy opened up his own gym in Tampa. So it's just, to be able to step back and say, okay, great, great. Those people are doing those things. My exes are all doing great. They're all doing way better than they were when I met them. So, these are all things that I can say, in all honesty, it was the influence of Kevin Samuels' content that made me say, yo, I need to put this on this needs to be a priority to me to do these things. And what I'm trying to say is I'm a better man for it. So he's passed. All right. We all got to accept that. But I think moving forward, his content now is going to be, it's going to be classic. It's going to be immortal now. And I think he's going to touch and influence even more now that he's gone. You look at your Bob Marleys, you look at your Tupacs, your Biggie Smalls. These are people that influence the generations that were born after their death more than they influence the generations that listen to their content when they were actively recording. So I think Kevin Samuels has the potential to be another one of those names in our history. And I think that we all as men have to kind of look at him and say, what were the qualities that he had that we can somewhat emulate and siphon into our character and our performance and personalities. Obviously he was all about the grown and sexy look and men wearing suits, what I thought was awesome because again, that's another thing I noticed in my grandfather's albums is, excuse me guys, let me just lighten this up a little bit because you see I'm losing daylight as I'm talking to you, so I just want to lighten it up a little bit. You guys know I'm just now getting familiar with this technology. Hold on. All right, I think I'm a little bit lighter. I think I'm I'm fighting the dark. Okay, so yeah, that's another thing I noticed looking at my grandfather's albums and stuff is that dudes were suited up. It had nothing to do with work. These guys were carpenters, construction workers. My grandfather used to work on the George Washington Bridge, so these weren't office guys or anything. But when they were chilling with women, when they were going out, when they were going partying, dancing, they were wearing suits. And I thought, damn, bro, like that's debonair, that's snappy. So I think Kevin Samuels did a lot to show black men that we need to take back ownership of our image. We need ownership. We need onus of our image. That's another one of the things that he stood for that I thought was excellent. Another thing I want to point out about Kevin Samuels that I highly admired was his ability to ignore negativity, negative criticism, detractors, haters, whatever you want to call them. His ability to just brush that off like a mosquito, I think, is unmatched. Um, the rumors that people put out about him, questioning his sexuality, although he passed with a woman, he passed on top of a woman. So I mean, anyhow, the fact that he was unfazed by by this slander, I thought also was, I mean, it's a great example. It's a great example of how a man can handle things with class. And, I only hope to grow into something that admirable. So I just think there's a long list of things that we can take from him in general that don't even necessarily have that much to do with his content, just the way that I think he carried himself. I think the way he did business, Um, I think the way he knew how to stay out of it, but always be in it. Kevin Samuels had an amazing way of not being in the mix with everybody, but yet everybody is trying to get a piece of that light that he created in the space, which I think is very interesting because you got so many people calling Kevin Samuels their friend, and calling Kevin Samuels this and that, and you don't never hear Kevin Samuels mentioning them. He ain't never shouting out no other channels. He doesn't need the features. He doesn't need the collaborations. But when he passed through, makes a contribution and keeps it moving. The man was like a 56-year-old ninja. So a lot can be said, bro. I'm not a fanboy. I don't ride balls, but I had my sights set on Kevin Samuels. I said, I'm gonna get in this space, and I want this guy to be my mentor. And there was some other guys that I wanted to meet, but no guy that I wanted to mentor me, other than Kevin Samuels. And I have a few guys that I confide in, and that give me mentorship now, and I appreciate it greatly. But Kevin Samuels was like always that guy that I was like, that's the uncle I need, and I'm gonna go after it. So when a mutual um, person reached out to me and said, "Listen, Kevin wants you to give him a call," and I was like, I was like, "Kevin, who?" And he was like, "Kevin Samuels." I remember like the world literally stopped for a second. If the world does spin, which I don't believe, it stopped spinning for that instant for me, and I was like, Kevin Samuels wants to speak to Allende Gordon. And I have a habit of manifesting the things that I want in life. Just being in this space is something I manifested. Being able to sit with a Coach Greg Adams or a Donovan Sharp. These are all things that I specifically pointed at and said, I want this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to figure out how to put myself at that table, put myself around those people. Some of them were exactly who I thought they were. Some of them were not who I thought they were. Some of them impressed me even more. Some of them disappointed me. But that's just humans. That's just humanity. And that's all good. But when someone reaches out to me and tells me, like, hey, listen, Kevin Samuels wants to speak to you, I'm going to send his number over to you right now. I just thought, by gosh. So, I would never share our conversations or our text message or anything like that. It's not about that. It's not about cloud chasing, how you guys love to say that. All these childish ass kids you got out here nowadays with no real perspective. But the point was, what I will share is one of the things that he said to me that I try to remind myself of every day, which is just be yourself. And that's what he told me. He said, listen, whatever Allende is, whoever Allende is, just be that. Just be yourself. Don't worry about what these content creators are doing, what they're talking about, what they're saying. Don't worry about who else is interviewing girls. Just just be you. And that really relieved a lot of stress off my shoulders because I thought to myself, how am I going to brand myself? What am I going to do? What am I going to bring to the space? Because my whole thing was I don't want to get into YouTube if I don't have anything different or unique to bring. And for someone like that to basically be telling me, he said in so many words, he said, you have something. He said, whatever it is, you have something, like as an individual. And then he basically just said, be yourself. And that made me feel like, oh, well, shit, if that's the case, I can't lose because I can't lose at being me. Like, that's the one thing that I can't fail at. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And just I just want guys to make it valuable, man. I want everything to be a teachable moment. So, I mean, the man's not here anymore. I didn't want to believe it. I just let it ride for a few hours. Like, I was like, nah, I'm going to go to bed and wake up and see if people are still saying this. People told me they were tearing up and shit, and it's like, I feel like I'm tearing up right now, but it's like, you know what? Hey, whoa. But I feel like it's only a loss if we let it be a loss. I think Kevin Samuels did so much in such a short period of time that he's given us enough for us to kind of step back, slow it down, break it down, and really, really feast on all of what he left. The man put out a lot of content, a lot of valuable content, and I think that he's someone to be analyzed and dissected and looked at quality for quality for quality for quality, and just ask yourself, how much of these qualities can I add to my repertoire? I wanted to jump into the suits for a long time, and Kevin is actually part of why I didn't jump into the suits, because I felt like, damn, then people gonna be like, you trying to be like Kevin Samuels. But before I came on to Kevin Samuels, I went to private school, bro. So I was always like, you know, doing that and tying a tie and all that kind of stuff and wearing the shoes to match and the cufflinks. So I already had my experience with that. As I got big, it got hard to find shit that fit me, and it got expensive because everything got to be tailored up. But then I was working at Express for a minute, and they started introducing these stretch shirts in every color. And so, the point is that the whole wearing a suit thing is something I already like had an interest in. And I just felt like Kevin just kind of hit the gas on that. Like, yes, do that. Wear those suits. So I was like, you know what? Let me work on the channel, get the money right. And when I finally get to that place, I'm definitely going to start making that regular. I want to inspire guys with it. I'm gonna obviously do it in my own little way. You guys know I like to wear the vest with the matching tie. I like the short sleeve shirts, let the biceps pop out. But the overall message of dressing better, smelling better, carrying yourself like quality, I love it. I love it for guys in general, because it says that you value yourself, and that's one of the things I want men to do, is value themselves, know they're the prize, and be confident in it because you're working on you. If you're working on a painting, you building something, right? Whatever you're putting your time and your effort into making, you're gonna have a certain level of pride in that. So make yourself one of those things, right? And I think that's one of the message he was giving us. Put yourself in a position to provide for a woman, then know what it is that you want. Be very clear about that. Be very stern, be very smart, be very wise and calculated about it. And I think we're going to have better outcomes in relationships. And I think it's the men that need to set the tone and the women that are going to need to follow. Because women will listen to men. The thing is, they're only going to listen to the quote unquote high valued men. And most of the time, high value men are very quiet. You know why? Because they're high value, so they're getting what they want. That's another thing that I wanted to tell guys. It's just that guys keep complaining about, this and that, and they keep on speculating what valuable men want and all sorts of shit. Listen, if you're not a valuable man, shut your ass up. You have no reason out here talking about what they want. And the reason why you don't see those dudes in the comments is because those dudes actually are getting what they want for the most part, because they're in a position to bargain. They're in a position to negotiate. They're in a position to demand, dictate, request, all of that. So if only 10% or 15% of our women are really, really wifey material, yes, the average woman is not wifey material. I agree with that 100%. But for the small percentage of women that are, who do you think has access to them? Exactly. The top 5% of men, the top 10% of men. That's who has access to them. That's who has a shot. So if anybody has the ability to make women behave and acquiesce, it would be those men. So whatever those qualities are, let's encourage that, okay, in modern day manhood and masculinity in general. Let's push that in general. And the women are going to have to follow. The women have always followed the men's lead. That's what it is. So if our women are out of control, if they're out of pocket, that's because the men are allowing it. It might be the Sims, it might be those men's, whatever. But the point is, it's some men that's enabling these women. You can't show me one bad behavior that women perpetrate that is not enabled by men. I dare you to find one thing women do that's distasteful that is not enabled by men. You can't show me that thing. If they're selling themselves on OnlyFans, who's buying it? Okay, if they're prioritizing social media and likes and comments and followers, who's following them, who's liking and who's commenting? Let's be for real. Okay, if the problem is the single mother situation, well, who's getting these chicks pregnant? Okay, if the problem is a divorce raping, well, who's marrying them in the first place? Who's bending out on a knee and saying, will you be my wife, without properly vetting the chick or protecting himself and his assets? I'm sure we can make excuses all day long. Well, it's the system Allende and it's this and it's that. Okay, with that being said, men got to be smarter. If it's cold in Alaska, wear a coat. Do you see where I'm going with this? As men, it's our jobs to peep the landscape and make the adjustments. That's what we got to do. Okay, we build the shit. We make shit safe. We make the adjustments. We cause the revolutions. The men do all of that. The women just come when the shit is comfortable. When we make it comfortable, that's when they come. So if it's comfortable to be a thought, I'm sorry, men made it and allowed it to be comfortable to be a thought. Because they're still out here telling the women that they're beautiful, they're perfect. I love you. Any man would be happy to be with you. Read these chicks' comments, bro. And look who's saying it. And you're going to sit here and tell me that men don't have a hand to play in the downfall of our society and the breakdown of our relationships? All right? So that's all I'm saying. You guys can say that these women chase Chad and Tyrone all day long. But the point is, then we would have to hold Chad and Tyrone accountable for slamming fours, fives, and sixes, right? Just like we got to hold the simps accountable for taking these chicks out on dates and spending all this money and buying them flowers, telling them they're beautiful and they deserve the world. So you got both extremes of guy acting out of desperation. Because if this guy's a 8, 9, or a 10, he's smashing 4, 5s, and 6s, he's acting out of desperation, right? And if this guy is hardworking, an earner, he's making good money, but he's a so-called simp or a beta, and he's over here spoiling some chick, giving her all these resources, time, and attention and validation, well, he's also acting out of desperation. And what do we get as a product of that? We get women out of pocket, all right? So much love to the late, great Kevin Samuels. I would say you'll be missed, but I feel like you're not going anywhere. That's the beauty of the internet. He's still here. All right, so go ahead and submerge into that content, study it. I wish he had dropped some books. That's one thing I wish that Kevin said. And maybe I'm wrong. If he dropped some books and I don't know about it, jump in the comments and give me a heads up. Did Kevin Samuels write any books? Hopefully he did. And if not, that is unfortunate. But anyhow, just when you thought he was going mainstream, right? I'm going to get out of here on this one, guys. Be positive, all right? Let's make the best of it. Let's be the best versions of ourselves. You already know what time it is. Keep it authentic. I'm out of here.